Good evening, friends. I wanted to share some more stuff. Now, this just came about. I had been traversing through this Tuatha De Danann because I found it quite interesting that it sounds a lot like the elves, and it kind of is reminiscent of, Galadriel and how she's currently portrayed in the Rings of Power, that series that's on Amazon Prime right now. Anyway, oh my gosh, without even, expecting what I found who Anunnaki is, basically. It's the craziest thing. So, I always heard that Anu was a god. Anu was some god and blah, 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 blah. Well, Anunnaki is not a people. Basically, Ki, was Earth back during Egypt's day. And honestly, it seems to me that what we have here, are these bits and pieces that we're picking up on the fall of Atlantis that was only just over, maybe 4,000 years ago, as opposed to hundreds of thousands or 12,000 or whatever. They're constantly coming up with all these numbers. But what they don't want us to know is how all of these tales actually weave a tapestry for the last golden age. And that's why we still have some of the written record around for us to piece together. And the entire narrative is starting to grow larger with how we have people at what we used to call the North Pole is actually the center of the earth. And, that the kings of the four corners are actually there. And that entire realm is like the Golden Land, basically, the Emerald City that's in Oz, in the Wizard of Oz, because of the Aurora Borealis that is, giving off green light. And apparently that is just some sort of amazing place. But after looking into all of these different subjects, I couldn't help myself but to start revisiting the Tuatha De Danann because of how enigmatic they are. It's said that they were a people who, they were honorable people, but you didn't want to cross them, basically. Is like, if you cross them, you'd become their worst enemy. So you didn't want to cross them. But also this idea that they are the Sith. That's what this is, the Sidhe, Sith. So this is where they get the idea in Star Wars, again, of the Sith. Somebody is just trying to throw information like little Easter eggs out to try to, I guess, get us to start looking at this stuff. And I can only imagine that a lot of these people who have been tied to Hollywood, there's probably a lot of them that didn't want to be tied to Hollywood anymore because of what Hollywood represents. It's actually the reptilians who own and control the Vatican. They own Hollywood. And it has been like this fraternal order of the Freemasons, basically. And it's also part of the CIA and MI6 and, all of these three-letter organizations that have grown up around the world are actually tied all the way back to the Vatican. And the Vatican, as we know, had reptiles in it. They were pretty much advertising with their audience hall looking like the head of a snake, and the throne. The other pope that was starting to look evil, he was the one who had that throne made that looked like a bunch of shades, basically, like dark spirits. Anyhow, we've got more and more people talking about the dark spirits. And, I truly want to talk to more people because I can see all of these things and how they connect. And I am not looking for recognition. I just want to amplify the message, and I don't know how, because, I'm not somebody that is looking for anything monetarily or otherwise. I just want to get messages out. I just want to get this message. I just want to spread awareness. That's all I'm here for, and that's all I'm passionate about. So I do feel a very, very, very strong connection to the center of the earth. And I actually got triggered, over the last few days. I took a vacation, and I was sitting and I was going over some of my notes, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that's my home. Like, I feel it. I read some more things about it and how the buildings are actually from, 800 years ago, which would be tied to what this Tartaria narrative is. And it just struck me like I'm completely tied to wherever these people come from. And like that whole elf experience, I'm telling you, I've been there. Wherever it is, I've been there. And I you don't want to say that you have a connection, but you do, because people need to know that the things that are inside them that pull them in a certain direction, especially when it feels really, really strong and you feel really strongly connected to different eras and epochs and things, it's very important to start digging down those trails of knowledge and to uncover things, because deeply embedded in our spirit and our cells and our body and our DNA, we have memories of places. And if we can just trigger those memories, we will know more about them. And the communication of, I guess you would say, our brethren or our family becomes stronger. And so, knowing what I know and the connections that I've been making with my higher self and other consciousnesses, when you truly start meditating in the silence and you're just allowing, this connection to happen, you can actually start receiving information from higher authority or higher consciousness. And so, just to put it out there, I felt like someone was talking to me, because I had gotten a little verklempt and a little overwhelmed because of, wanting to be somewhere far away from where this existence is, because this material world just gets me. So they basically told me, they're like, don't be upset, but rejoice instead, because the time is near where we will know about them. They have UFOs, they have higher technology, they have higher facilities, they have higher intelligence, because they have far surpassed where we are in our minds. They are in the middle of the earth, and they are waiting for us. Everyone is waiting for us to acknowledge their presence, to know about them, to discover them, because only through our own discovery can we then rejoin them. They do not wish to frighten us, because they are of a higher stature than us. They are twice our size, and we would freak out if we saw, someone walking down the street or coming around. We always think, things of that nature are strange when we see someone who is a little bit different from everybody else. We always look at them, with some sort of like fear or disdain or that kind of thing. So they've had to wait until we can actually grow up spiritually in our awakening and everything else. They've been waiting for us. And the time is almost near where they will approach us and they will reach out to us as individuals. They're already in contact with other factions of our governments around the world, and they're actually helping in certain ways, because they don't want to see us suffer. And they don't want to see, this fighting, we're fighting each other and all of the evil that has taken over our lives and things. They don't want to see all that. They want to see us thrive, and they want to see us care for our world, but they will not interfere with our free will. And that's part of our lesson, is to know that we are destroying our world and we have to come to terms. So in the evolutionary process of a new race, basically, because we're very young, because of all the wiping of the memories and things, you have to just let them evolve. You can't step in and say, no, 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 you're not doing this right. We're going to show you how. That's kind of like a dictator. So we have to grow up and learn from our own lessons. This is why they have not intervened with a lot of our fighting and, the wars and stuff, but they will not let us destroy our world completely. This is why things are coming about as they are, because we have to be able to wake up and discover who is actually at the helm of this world right now and how far they are getting with everything in the destruction of our world, and that they have tricked us into participating in destroying our world. So this is our discovery that's waiting for us to acknowledge it, so that we can look around and go, okay, what's the solution? Well, the solution is that we all band together and we start course correcting all of the problems. So, I just experiencing all these things that I've been experiencing lately, because I've been diving in every single day. My spirit is the one that guides me. So I know that I am being divinely guided, like this is supposed to happen. So I'm writing books. I don't know how long it's going to take me to write books. I've already started 3 books for different subjects, and I just want to start compiling information and putting it out there. And, just trying to get the message across as fast as I can, because somehow internally I know about these people. I know about them, but I'm having to be reminded. And that's why I find specific things every single day, that I actually look, because that's what my task is to do here in this existence right now, is like to focus on this and to get this information out, because it's going to assist in this whole great awakening. But, I just wish that I could reach a broader audience somehow, because to me, I see, like, oh my gosh, people, this is astounding me. And then how it overlays some of these things that other people are talking about out here with the UFO phenomena and the Anunnaki and all these things. So we're going to quickly review the Tuatha De Danann. Again, we must know about these enigmatic people, because they are very important right now. And I feel like these are the ones that are also at the center of the earth. So Danann is like Dana, okay? And it's also Danu. So these names and terms and words have always evolved. And that's why it's so hard to try to catch up with the truth, is because through each age, the names change, but the players are always the same. So this is an Irish story, basically. The Tuatha De Danann, meaning the folk of the goddess Danu. Very important. Remember, Danu. Also known by the earlier name Tuatha De, tribe of the gods, are a supernatural race in Irish mythology. Many of them are thought to represent deities of pre-Christian Gaelic Ireland. The Tuatha De are often depicted as kings, queens, druids, bards, warriors, heroes, healers, and craftsmen who have supernatural powers. In other words, they know the powers of the universe. We do not, because it was erased from our collective memory due to the church or Kirk or Kirke or Mother Circe. Now, that's a whole nother thing. That Mother Circe is the sorceress. Mother Circe performs sorcery through black magic and pharmakia. Yeah, get that one. Back to Tuatha De. These Tuatha De are very, very unique people. So they dwell in the other world, but interact with humans and the human world. They are associated with the Sith. Prominent ancient burial mounds such as Bru Nabwan, which are entrances to other world realms. Their traditional rivals are the Fomorians, which are the giants. It's one of the races of giants who might represent the destructive powers of nature. See, the Fomorians, so the destructive powers of nature. So you have the three different types of giants. One of them is the earth giant, and then the other one is the frost giant, and the other one is the fire giant. So you have three different types of basically elemental giants. And I guess that's what Fomorians are. But they're not going to tell you all this stuff in this. They're not going to tell you about the different elementals because they are the ones who are doing all this stuff to us because we don't live on the inside of this big circle that we call the world, the whirling. We live kind of in the middle, in the Midgard. And we get the brunt of all the wars between the infighting of the middle of the world and the exterior of the world. We're caught in the crossfires, but they love to use us, pit us against each other, and to then, fight, I guess, each other. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We are in War of the Gods, just like the video game, but we have not been privy to these other beings, but we're going to, because there's no stopping the truth that's coming out right now. So the Fomorians, all right, here we go. Who might represent the destructive powers of nature and whom the Tuatha De defeat in the Battle of Mogtwerd. Prominent members of the Tuatha De include the Dagda, the great god, the Morrigan, the great queen or phantom queen. Okay, some of these names too, some of the terms are actually used in various video games. They change the spelling and they put it in video games, they put it in movies and stuff. But there's all these different names. Three gods of craft. Several of the Tuatha De are cognate with the ancient Celtic deities. And of course, it's going to take some more digging to figure out these. So the Tuatha De, they consider them fallen angels who were neither wholly good nor evil, or ancient people who became highly skilled in magic, but several writers acknowledged that at least some of them had been gods. Some of them have multiple names, but in the tales they often appear to be different characters. And that's exactly what we're doing now. Originally, these probably represented different aspects of the same deity, while others were regional names. Tuatha De eventually became the Aos Si, the Sith folk or fairies of later folklore. Now, here we go. Let's go over here. I'm going to show you this. Aos Si, the Sidhe redirects here. And this is the Sidhe. Aos Si, older form Aos Si, is the Irish name for a supernatural race in Celtic mythology, spelled Sith by the Scots, but pronounced the same, comparable to fairies or elves. They are said to descend from either fallen angels or the Tuatha De Danann, meaning the people of Danu. So this is one and the same here. They're trying to make you think that it's two different things. It's one and the same, depending on the Abrahamic or pagan tradition. The Aos Si are said to live underground in fairy forts across the western sea, or in an invisible world that coexists with the world of humans. This world is described by the Lebor Gabala Erin as a parallel universe in which the Aos Si walk among the living. In modern Irish, the people of the mounds are also called Aos Si. In Scottish Gaelic, they are called Aos Sith. In both cases, it means people of the fairy mound. They are variously said to be the ancestors, spirits of nature, or goddesses and gods. Yeah, so it just keeps going. You guys might want to go look at this. So, but see, here's Riders of the Sith. So it's one and the same. So the Tuatha De Danann and the Riders of the Sith are the same people. They're using the same image, different names. They're trying to confuse people so much with all of this, rewriting of things. So these are the Sith, just like Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. They're always going to portray good as evil and evil is good and all this stuff. It's always backwards. So here we go again. Let's look at this. So this is what I found looking up Danu. So here's Danu, and it's a Celtic goddess. Now this is making me think that it may be tied to the moon, because goddess of the moon was Lady Diana. They are always using these words. I'm not sure where the origin of it but I remember listening to someone say that Lady Diana was part of the royal family. She was actually considered the moon goddess, and that's why they sacrificed her to the moon goddess. I don't know. I haven't made the connecting points of why it is called Diana or Danu, but apparently this is tied to the moon goddess, the feminine aspect of the moon. So here we go. Let's read this. Danu, also spelled Anu. Very important for when you're going over this Anunnaki material. So here we go. Anu is the moon goddess. Okay, so Dana or Dana in Celtic religion. So you see how this sounds. This would be Danu and Anu, or Dana, Donna. See, Donna is actually Dana, but we're the ones who think we have to change the sound. But really, it's all one and the same. In Celtic religion, the Earth Mother Goddess, or female principle, who was honored under various names from Eastern Europe to Ireland. The mythology that surrounded her was contradictory and confused. Mother goddesses of earlier peoples were ultimately identified with her, as were many goddesses of the Celts themselves. Possibly a goddess of fertility, of wisdom, and of wind, she was believed to have suckled the gods. Her name was borne by the legendary Tuatha De Danann, people of the goddess Danu, the Irish company of gods, who may be considered either as distinct individuals or as extensions of the goddess, and who survive in Irish lore as the fairy folk, skilled in magic. Basically, I guess they don't want to say the elves. So a mother goddess is either going to be tied to the moon or to Venus. The Virgin Mary is a connection to Venus. Now, all of these things that they're not telling us the entire story. So we have to try to figure it out, what is it they're trying to get at? Each age brings about a different story, and we have to keep up and try to figure out what these stories are about. So I found some information too about Jesus, and Jesus was actually Iusis, and Iusis was actually Jupiter. And the reason Jesus was Jupiter was because Jupiter ruled Pisces, the fish of Christianity. And now we're going into the age of Aquarius. So now it's going to be this idea of black cube symbolism everywhere because of Saturn being the black sun. So you see, there's like this whole narrative that we have not been privy to that is actually going on behind the scenes of our entire society, because we don't know the signs, the terms, the symbols, all of the terminology, the words they use, the etymology of words. This is when you gain the eyes to see this, is when you can actually see what is going on, and you're like, whoa, they're all tying everything back to astrotheology, because it is the science and spirit of the stars. We can use this energy to our benefit, but they've been using it more and getting power over us and putting themselves over us. But they know now the time of our awakening is here. So they're in a mad scramble to lock us in to all of this technology. And we're in a battle for ourselves and our lives right now. And the financial system that is transforming, and it's going to be ripped apart. Well, there's going to be no more war. And that's by design, because apparently Saturn, who is Chronos, who is time, who is basically the father of everything here in this existence, he's the Dark Lord. He does not like wars while he has his reign. And whether he's an actual being still, or if he's just an energy, I don't know. But apparently one of the things is that he does not like war, and he does not like fences or divided lands. He wants open borders, and he demands no fences. So we're going to see some really major changes over the next 2 different ages with Capricorn and Aquarius, because he rules both of them. So by the time we get to Capricorn, oh my goodness, will we even have livestock? Will we even have, all this whole idea of borders? We shouldn't have borders, honestly. That was a falsehood that was placed after the fall of Atlantis. That whole notion of, closing off everything to everyone and shutting down the world basically from each other, it was a falsehood. We're supposed to be able to be free and go wherever we want. So we need to know that change is inevitable and it's coming, and to not look upon it as a bad thing. There's nobody that's going to come over and take over the world. This whole notion of, oh, we need to shut down the borders and build a wall to Mexico. No, we don't. No, we don't. What we need to do is get rid of the freaking governments that we have right now. And we need to focus on helping the people and helping each other, because we need to be given back the powers of our own land. But anyway, I digress again. We're just going to go over some of these other things. I have a very different view of what the world should be, and we should be able to go wherever we want to go at any time with freedom, and to give respect to wherever we go and be respected wherever we go. But we're so indoctrinated in this system. It's just ugly how we attack each other, and we think, oh no, they shouldn't be allowed over here. This is our world over here. This is my land. This is my house. No, guess what? You can't take that land and that house with you when you die. So why aren't we sharing it with people? We have to show people how to be good to each other again, because most people are so selfish. My goodness, I just can't believe all the selfishness that's out here in the world and the ugliness. I mean, there's so many beautiful people, but when you get down to the crux of it, people are greedy. And especially now, like more than ever, you want to take a vacation, you can't even take a vacation because people are just going overboard with the prices of like Airbnb places to stay. Instead of being giving and going, oh, we're going to help people because it's kind of hard for people right now. No, it's like, oh no, we're going to charge $200 a night. And then Airbnb goes, oh, well, we're going to charge, an extra $150 on top of your $200 a night or something like that. And it just gets ridiculous. Then it ends up being $300 a night, plus your taxes and fees and so on. I don't go anywhere. I'm thinking about just, getting a different car so that I can just camp in my car because I can't hardly afford to do anything. So, by the grace of goodness of my friends that I have, I get asked to go on vacations with them. So it's just frustrating because, this material world just got me down and I'm pushing away from it. And y'all can have it. I just, just overwhelming all the junk we make. And then it's holding us back from our purpose, is the way I see it. I know I have a very different vision from most people, but material goods are just not my thing anymore. So anyway, yeah, I got off on that tangent. All right, here we go. Mother goddess, any variety of feminine deities, material symbols of creativity, birth, fertility, sexual union, nurturing, and the cycle of growth. So this is the whole thing. The nurturing of the earth has been missing because it's all by design. This is how they can come up with a zodiac for any different culture because they realize the time cycles that we go through. And since these other beings have been around here much longer than we have, they can predict what's going to happen by putting a calendar wheel for astrotheology out for the zodiac signs and all this stuff. And then it's how we can know ourselves fully just by knowing our zodiac sign. Now, who in the world could come up with something like that? That's like a clock for every different thing that's going to come about. You tell me. I mean, obviously, they have to have a higher authority than us. And they're trying to help us. So, you can't just make this stuff up and go, oh, well, this is what the future is going to be. No, but guess what? If you have a calendar, you will. And if you understand what that calendar says, absolutely. You can predict just about anything because it's just going to come back around cycle and cycle after time. Here we go. The term also has been applied to figures as diverse as the so-called Stone Age. So, what they're calling the Stone Age, guys, it's the Golden Age. It's Tartaria. What that Tartarian narrative is, that's the Stone Age. They want us to think that it's some, millions of years ago or even hundreds of thousands of years ago that these primitive people were all around. They were not primitive. What they realized is that they needed to live in balance with nature, in harmony with nature. And to do that, you have to live in stone houses and brick houses and things of that nature. But, they want us to think that the Stone Age was some primitive time with the most primitive people, and it's a lie. What it was a beautiful world. I know it because I feel it, and I feel it every day, and I long for it every day. It's why I was so interested in the Greek statues, what they called Greco-Roman statues, Michelangelo, these ancient people. I felt a strong connection when I took art history and I saw Michelangelo's statues. I was like, oh my gosh. I was intrigued. And then, later in my life is when I found out why. It's because it's not Greco-Roman and it's not Michelangelo's work. It's actually part of the old, beautiful world that once was. And it's part of Atlantis and Lemuria and the time when people were one, the universe, the one voice. They worked in harmony with nature, and it was a balanced era where there was no lack, no want. Yep, everything was bountiful. These goddesses, the main two goddesses that are out here are the moon and Venus. I don't know why. Here's a joke that I came up with. If you look at the different gods, the ones that they're worshiping for each age is a planet. And in those planets, there's only two female entities. And the two female entities are Venus and the moon. The moon and then Venus. For all these males that are out here that are vying for positions, you got Here's Jupiter. This is Mars, Venus, Mercury, the moon. Okay, and over here you have Saturn, Saturn again. Then you have Jupiter, and you have Mars, and you have Venus, and then Mercury and the sun. My joke is this, that it only takes 2 women to do the work of 5 men, basically. It takes only 2 women, but it takes 5 men to do the work of 2 women. I was like, I'm sorry, but I found it funny because it's like, that's about right. Look at all the mess that these men create. these these so-called gods, look at the mess that they create. And then it's going to take the women a short time to just clean up their mess. It's like, no, we got this. You guys have your fun over here in the golden age, and you're doing all this craziness out in the world. Y'all got all this time to mess it all up. And then the women go, oh, God, I can't believe it. That's why there's only 2 in astrotheology, because the men, they're all over the place. All right, that was just a joke. Y'all don't take it too serious. I just thought it was humorous. Yeah, okay. Anyway, back to the show. Okay, back to Tuatha De. This is Riders of the Sith. We're in the Sith part of this, which is just, why would they be 2 different things? The etymology in the Irish language, Aos Si means people of the mounds. It is the Sith in Irish, or hills, or burial mounds. This is what we're talking about. Like, that's what we're dealing with all these mounds around the world. They are burial mounds. And they were not Indians. It's not Indian burial mounds. It's Sith burial mounds. They are large mounds because these people are large in stature. So they're suggesting that the Aos Si came from the land of the dead. Now, and it might be. Maybe there's 2 different versions, because we're dealing with giants around the world. And they have been fighting. The good factions and the bad factions have been fighting each other because they're using us. In modern Irish, the word si and Scottish Gaelic Sith, and Old Irish Sidhe, and the singular is Sidhe. See where all the names come from, the terms and words? By the time of the Celtic revival, when the very faith became a topic for English and English language authors, Sith, in its various forms with various meanings, became a loan word into English and took on a variety of often inaccurate meanings. See, this is with every word, I think. In a number of later English language texts, the word Sith is incorrectly used for both the mounds and the people of the mounds. For example, W.B. Yeats, writing in 1908, referred to the Aos Si simply as the Sith. However, the Sith in older texts refers specifically to the palaces, courts, halls, or residences of the otherworldly beings that supposedly inhabit them. Doesn't this sound familiar? Palaces, courts, halls, residences. Isn't that what we've been seeing with that whole Tartarian narrative? With the buildings and things that are basically melted. The fact that many of these Sith have been found to be ancient burial mounds has contributed to the theory that the Aos Si were the pre-Celtic occupants of Ireland. In the scholarly literature of the popular tales of Ireland, the word Sith is conjectured to be synonymous with immortal, and is compared with words such as Sithsat, they wait, remain. The Watchers comes to mind. Sithbeo, lasting. Sith one, perpetual. And Sithbe, long life. In most of the tales concerning the sea, a great age or long life is implied. In Irish folklore, here we go. In many Gaelic tales, the Aos Si are later literary versions of the Tuatha De Danann, people of the goddess Danu, the deities and deified ancestors of Irish mythology. Some sources describe them as the survivors of the Tuatha De Danann who retreated into the other world when fleeing the mortal sons of Mil Espain, who, like many other early invaders of Ireland, came from Iberia. As part of the terms of their surrender to the Milesians, the Tuatha De Danann agreed to retreat and dwell underground. In later interpretations, each tribe of the Tuatha De Danann was given its own mound. Geoffrey Keating, an Irish historian of the early 17th century, equates Iberia with the land of the dead, providing a possible connection to the Aos Si. In folk belief and practice, the Aos Si are often appeased with offerings, and care is taken to avoid angering or insulting them. Sounds like those elves that you always see in the movies, especially like Elrond and them. You just notice how serious they are. They're very, very staunch in their practices. They are honest and honorable, but you do not want to cross them. In other words, they're not going to take any crap from anybody. Often they are not named directly, but rather spoken of as the good neighbors, the fair folk, or simply the folk. The most common names for them: Aos Si, Aos Sith, Dewanin Sith, singular Dwin Sith, and Downing Sith mean literally people of the mounds, referring to the Sith. The Aos Si are generally described as stunningly beautiful, though they can also be terrible and hideous. Haven't we heard this? Stunningly beautiful. The angels of heaven. You know, this idea of the Pleiadians. Beautiful Pleiadians with blue eyes and blonde hair. We've been hearing this time and time again. The same notion came from Hitler when Hitler encountered the Aryan race. You know, he wanted to bring about this Aryan race, the most perfect race. Yeah, there were some weird things with that whole narrative. We've always been lied to about everything. Aos Si are seen as fierce guardians of their abodes, whether a fairy hill, a fairy ring, a special tree, often a hawthorn, or a particular loch or wood. It is believed that infringing on these spaces will cause the Aos Si to retaliate in an effort to remove the people or objects that invaded their homes. Many of these tales contribute to the changeling myth in Western European folklore, with the Aos Si kidnapping trespassers or replacing their children with changelings as a punishment for transgressing. The Aos Si are often connected to certain times of year and hours, as the Gaelic otherworld is believed to come closer to the mortal world at the times of dusk and dawn. The Aos Si correspondingly become easier to encounter. Some festivals such as Samhain, Beltane, and Midsummer are also associated with the Aos Si. Okay, this is the Irish otherworld. Tir Nanog. Okay, in Irish mythology, Tir Nanog, I guess that's how you pronounce it, land of the young. Tir Nanog, land of youth, is one of the names of the Celtic otherworld, or perhaps for a part of it. Tir Nanog is best known from the tale of Oisin and Naim. It's interesting, it might be Odin, you know, I don't know. Other old Irish names for the otherworld include Tir Tairneard, land of promise, promised land. Tir Fothun, land under the wave. Magmel, plain of delight, delightful plain. And Ildathach, multicolored place. And Emain Ablach, the Isle of Apple Trees. Similar myths in the northern Celtic cultures include these of Anwen, Fairyland, Avalon, and High Brazil. Tir is depicted as an island paradise and supernatural realm of everlasting youth, beauty, health, and abundance and joy. Island paradise sounds like it's at the center of the earth, guys. Its inhabitants are described as the Tuatha De Danann, or the warriors of the Tuatha De, the gods of pre-Christian Ireland, who engage in poetry, music, entertainment, and the feast of Guabanu, which grants immortality to the participants. In the Echtre adventure and Imram voyage tales, various Irish mythological heroes visit Tir after a voyage or an invitation from one of its residents. They reach it by entering ancient burial mounds or caves, by journeying through a mist, by going underwater, or by traveling across the sea for 3 days on an enchanted boat or Manannan's horse. The tales of mortals who visit the other world are referred to as Echtre, adventurers, and Bailey, visions, ecstasies. The path across the sea is called Mogmel, plain of honey. It is the golden path made by the sun on the ocean, and to travel far over the green meadows of the waters where the horses of Lir have their pastures. The god that rules this region is said to be the first ancestor of the human race and the god of the dead, and in the surviving tales is almost always named as Manannan Mac Lir. Okay, so one of the things that I learned about Saturn is that he was the first one. And Saturn is the god of the dead. So Saturn is the one who rules. And he is a very staunch father of all his children. So I suspect that there's referring to Saturn. In the tales, Manannan is usually described as a warrior and sometimes accompanied by his golden-haired wife or daughter, who sometimes wears a golden helmet. Tir is described as a beautiful place, a forested wilderness or flowery meadow, but it is usually dangerous or hostile to human visitors, who remain on the island for a period of time that is typically a multiple of 3 days or 3 years. The women of Tir are very beautiful and maybe the only residents, and sometimes leave to visit mortal men or otherwise establish a presence. There is a salmon-inhabited well or fountain in Tir that is found near an enormous tree or grove of 9 hazels, or a lady's bower where bloom was on every bough, and the air heavy with the sweetness of orchards, and a lake area, perhaps Dulcinea, typically an enormous tree that lies at the center of the island, and birds singing beautiful music in its branches are stated in the Echtre to be the souls of the dead. A drinking horn suspended near the well or an enchanted cup is also present in some of the tales, along with a silver branch containing golden apples, perhaps even somewhere an enchanted herb in a false war. There are cities and fortresses made of precious metals and feather thatch in Tir although their exact number is not clear. In some stories, there is a multicolored flowered plain full of bees in or underneath the forested wilderness of Tir and a parting is sweet as honey and maybe forever. Oisin and Nam. In the tale, Oisin, a human hero, and Nam, a woman of the other world, fall in love. She brings him to Tir on a magical horse that can travel over water. Sounds like Pegasus. After spending what seems to be 3 years there, Oisin becomes homesick and wants to return to Ireland. Nam reluctantly lets him return on the magical horse, but warns him to never touch the ground. When he returns, he finds that 300 years have passed in Ireland. Oisin falls from the horse. He instantly becomes elderly as the years catch up with him, and he quickly dies of old age. The story of Ois Si bears a striking similarity to other tales. Example, the Japanese tale of Urashima Taro. Another version concerns the king Herla, a legendary king of the ancient Britons, who visited the other world only to return some 200 years later and after the lands had been settled by Anglo-Saxons. The Seven Sleepers of Ephesus, a group of Christian youths who hid in a cave outside the city of Ephesus around 250s, purportedly awoke about 180 years later during the reign of Theodosius II. Sounds like time is not the same in the middle of the earth. Oisin in Tir Nanog, there is a king of Tir Nanog who held the crown for many years. The tradition of the land is that every 7 years champions come to run against the king in order to rule. They run up a hill to a throne, and the first person to sit on the throne becomes king until a champion replaces him. The king begins to fear that someone else will replace him as king. He visits a druid and asks about his fate as a monarch. The druid tells him that he will always be king unless his son-in-law runs against him. Since the king's daughter is not yet married, he decides to use the druid's magic to turn his daughter's head into that of a pig. So this is the tale of Tir Nanog, and it sounds like Tir Nanog is actually what we know as Hyperborea. It sounds like that is a very highly potential overlay. So that's my discovery of Tuatha De Danann, and as I discover more things, of course I'm going to share them. I do feel like this narrative with the center of the earth is getting bigger, and as time progresses, it's just going to keep getting larger. So that's all I have for you guys today, and I'll see you on the next one.